From the heart of South Asia to the crossroads of Central Asia, from the turbulent Middle East and North Africa to the power corridors of the West, where perspectives collide, narratives matter and stories connect. This is Beyond Borders and I am Umar Khalid Bhatt. Now, during the course of the show, we'll bring you stories from across the world with a perspective of a world without borders and boundaries and talk about issues that matter in this changing world. We'll begin with what we call the top stories of the day, or in our words, region lines. We start from Pakistan, where security forces have successfully neutralized all the Khawarij involved in the attack on Waqar Cadet College, including a suicide bomber and 4 terrorists. Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir closely monitored the operation, instructing that no harm should come to the builders of the nation. Also, Pakistan's initiative to hold Inter-Parliamentary Speakers Conference in Islamabad has been widely appreciated for taking a principled stance on issues that have put humanity in crisis, particularly the barbarity perpetrated by Israel. Meanwhile, Israeli warplanes have launched 3 airstrikes on Beit Lahia in northeastern Gaza, while gunfire has been heard from Israeli forces stationed east of the Burej refugee camp in central Gaza. Gaza Civil Defense says its crews have so far recovered 51 bodies from a mass grave in the courtyard of the Sheikh Radwan clinic in western Gaza city. Meanwhile, in the West, thousands of delegates are taking an active part in COP30 in Belém, Brazil. Delegates are holding intense discussions on possible measures to counter climate hazards. Speaking at the inaugural ceremony of the Pakistan Pavilion at COP30, Chief Minister Punjab Maryam Nawaz announced that the budget to combat smog has been increased from Rs 94 billion to Rs 123 billion, marking a major policy shift towards green governance. Our leading story, of course, is from South Asia, and that concerns the recent incidents that happened in Pakistan, whether it be Wana, whether it be in Islamabad. And we also saw how things were happening, and we were revealing that with you in real time as well on Pakistan TV. There is a huge nexus that had been unearthed and continues to be unearthed between the perpetrators behind these 2 incidents, that are the Fitna al-Khawarij and of course their backers, the financial backers, that is India. The fact remains that this destabilization of Pakistan is something that is high on the agenda of India, at least. When it comes to the Afghan territory, Pakistan has many a times tried to negotiate with the Afghan Taliban to talk some sense to them. We had various talks, but this led nowhere. And then we saw what happened in Islamabad and also at the Waqar Cadet College. This is something that to some seems normal, to others it does not. But this nexus seems to be strengthening with every passing day. What needs to be done? How should Pakistan as a country counter it? What are the different mechanisms, diplomatic or otherwise, that Pakistan has now in its capacity to move forward with? To discuss that and more, we have been joined in the studios by Dr. Roxolana Zigon. She is an international geostrategic expert and international affairs expert as well. Comes all the way from Moscow and was here. We got hold of her. Thank you very much, Roxolana, to have joined us. It's a pleasure to have you here on the show.
Thank you very much for your invitation. So I'm pleased to be here, and I'm pleased to have an opportunity to share my views on the current affairs in regard to Pakistan, being a great friend of Pakistan.
I know that. We did talk about Pakistan and of course your views on that. Dr. Zigon, how do you assess this growing body of intelligence that openly suggests a coordinated nexus between the Indian intelligence agencies and certain Afghan elements in orchestrating terror activities in Pakistan, particularly in Islamabad and Wana? These are the latest incidents, so I just wanted your point on that.
I think in order to analyze the current situation, we should focus on the reasons, not on the consequences, and to look back in the history of this problem. First of all, we have to look back and highlight recent military conflict that took place between India and Pakistan, and that has been deliberately frozen, as well as we know that the reasons of that conflict has been not resoluted for years and for decades. I think, and I assume as a geopolitician, the person who is not relying just on political geography, but on, let's say, hot burning insights which reflect a much more practical database. And I can say that all those events, to my point of view, are interconnected. As soon as the conflict between India and Pakistan has been so-called stopped by the efforts of the outer forces and participation of American side, which has announced itself as a peacemaker, and the conflict has been freezed, it was evident that that kind of situation would receive a continuation. And that continuation we have seen at the recent tension on the borders between Pakistan and Afghanistan, as well as Indian aggressive propagandistic approach towards Pakistan has been not changing for years and for decades. And we all know that India and Pakistan has been at the top of the tension since the late 40s. So Indian intelligence service is well informed in consideration that Afghanistan is a vulnerable, toxic area and the closest let's say, tension zone for Pakistan. That's why we can assume that the intelligence forces and military forces of India in New Delhi consider burning the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan and keep that kind of conflict going on and on. Somehow, the recent events, an explosion, terroristic attack in Islamabad, is a message, a sign from the side of Indians and their allies in Afghanistan. I assume that those allies are actually located among Talibans, among those kind of tribes that are easy to be converted and are easy to be actually inclined towards the propaganda of Indians. So we can see that all those events are interconnected with each other. And that's why it should not be a big surprise to Pakistani officials.
Dr. Zigon, given India's long-standing presence and influence within Afghanistan, and we see that even recently they've opened a consulate there as well. Aid networks, intelligent outposts that have been present there, closed and reopened again. To what extent do you believe New Delhi has institutionalized this influence into a proxy-based destabilization strategy against Pakistan?
I can clearly confirm my observation that India has been drifting recently towards United States. And if we hear their statements from the side of Washington, we can clearly identify that Washington is trying to play double game. So one day they declare that they have been never experiencing such a tremendously successful relationship with New Delhi, and another day they actually announce that they have never ever experienced within the last 15 years such a successful relationship with Pakistan. So I think that India is turning into quite an efficient element of prolongation of the foreign policy of United States. Unfortunately, New Delhi is entering the very same trap that it used to take place during the Cold War. And I'm afraid that trying to play with India against of Afghanistan or through Afghanistan against of Pakistan, United States is going to lose quite an important ace in this game, China, because all that hurdle, all that kind of extra tension which is created by the outer forces is not doing a good service for the whole region of the South Asia.
But when you look at the reports, for example, let's take you to the recent incident that happened at the Waqar Cadet College. There were reports on social media. There were so many social media accounts that were already propagating something that was to happen. And of course, for example, in Islamabad, they were already saying that, and then we saw what happened outside the district courts. This synchronized online propaganda emanating from Afghan-based accounts prior to these incidents, how significant is the information warfare component in India's broader hybrid strategy targeting Pakistan? Not the first time. We all saw the Disinfo Lab report that also came a couple of years back that also highlighted the whole nexus that India had orchestrated across the world to manipulate and malign Pakistan.
I think that's an evident thing that India has been actively using information warfare. First of all, there has been serious investments made towards the propaganda mechanism in India, and we have been seeing how Indian media has been aggressively reacting against of Pakistan just prior to the conflict, the war conflict that took place in the end of April after Pahalgam terroristic attack. It was absolutely orchestrated within the same manner and scenario. And I don't see any kind of extraordinary difference between what India has been doing before and what India continues to do in a sense of propaganda and information warfare.
All right. In your view, has international community underestimated the extent of India's hegemonic ambitions and the use of terrorism by India as a foreign policy tool, especially in South Asia?
I strongly believe that we should not rely so heavily on international media, because international media is quite strongly fragmented, you know, and orchestrated by certain lobby and interest group. I think that the region of South Asia should focus on creating its own media space and should create its own strategy and somehow kind of information policy that will cover.
But Roxolana, what I was trying to allude to was the international community's underestimation of India's hegemonic designs. Do you feel that they underestimate India's ambitions and the use of terrorism as a foreign policy tool?
Somehow we can say that there is an underestimation, somehow there is an exaggeration, so we can say that it's 50-50 actually disbalance, because I can't say that there is a kind of balancing situation here.
All right, Roxolana, a lot of Indian accounts on X came on with their narratives when, you know, this all happened in Pakistan, and I'll just refer to one lady who said, whenever elections are near in India, such incidents occur, sometimes in Pulwama, sometimes in Delhi. Is this to mislead the public? Who benefits from such incidents in the elections? This is what she says. What's your say on that?
I think it's a general track or general policy that has been taken as a flagship idea and strategy of India. That's why I would rather not separate this kind of policy into separate pieces. I think there is a united approach which India decided to follow in order to become extremely important macro region that has right or feels to have right to expose its hegemonic approach towards its neighbors.
Dr. Roxolana, also I'd like to understand, we had a lot of talks between the Pakistani side and the Afghan side. We had many of our leaders go to our neighborhood country and talk to the Afghan Taliban government in order to persuade them to stop the influx of terrorist elements into Pakistani soil. Nothing concrete happened from this, despite the various opportunities that Pakistan gave the Afghan Taliban government. But at the same time, you also see the Afghan intelligence networks working in cohorts with the Indian intelligence agencies. We know Amir Muttaqi, who goes to New Delhi, and he's received like a VIP, and of course there are, whatever happens happens. I don't want to go into the details of that. But what does all of this reveal about Afghan Taliban government's non-commitment towards stopping any forms of terrorist activity towards Pakistan, and B, India's long-term strategic objective vis-a-vis Pakistan's internal stability?
So, as far as I understood your question, and why the diplomatic failures are not leading to diplomatic
because, we even had
breakthrough.
mediators. We had Qatar and Turkey who also mediated. We had so many rounds of talks. It led nowhere, because the Afghan Taliban side were really not wanting to sign on the dotted line.
Actually, we have to look at the disposition, which actually shows that Pakistan is in position, is in a perfect historical momentum to demonstrate its diplomatic will, and Afghan side is absolutely refusing the stretched hand of peace and friendship. And it has actually an explanation. First of all, we are living in a quite difficult moment of global disorder. And that disorder has creepily arrived to the region of South Asia, because South Asian region has become the next battlefield of the geopolitical forces. And we must not deny the fact that the third power or the third force is using in a kind of terms of special operation on information field an element of the flag force or false flag, you know. It means when you are realizing your foreign policy or military defense policy strategy on the territory of the third country by the hands and by the operational forces of the fourth country. That's why we can have to see who is standing behind it, why Afghan side and Taliban are absolutely not inclined to seal up the peace deal.
All right. But how do you see this region evolving now? When you look at one end, Pakistan is encircled by the Afghan side, by the which is governed for the moment by interim Afghan government of the Afghan Taliban. On the other side, Pakistan has a very hostile Indian neighbor. Pakistan has tried many a times to talk on issues pertaining to the conflicts between the two sides, but that has led nowhere. What do you feel as a geopolitical analyst is the intention of both the current Afghan Taliban regime in Afghanistan as well as the Indian government as far as Pakistan is concerned? Why can't there be stability in the region?
The stability starts from the will at least of one party. And in this constellation, there is only one party I can see, the one that has a diplomatic will, and it's Pakistan. For Pakistan, on account of Pakistan, it's a good actually surplus to its diplomatic baggage. As for India, India is absolutely not interested to attack at this moment Pakistan directly, because no one is interested to start up a nuclear war in the region. That's why actually the special information operations warfare is actually in service and in charge. We should not forget that India has been deliberately and for a long time has been investing into Afghanistan. And today Afghanistan having its economy on a lowest level, of course, is in need of recovery and reconstruction of the economic ground. And India, somehow we can assume, offers to Taliban quite a generous help and support, not only through investments, but through the weaponry and other kind of assistance, which actually somehow satisfy Taliban. I think Pakistan should search those kind of parties that will be willing to become ally of Pakistan in its diplomatic efforts in order to convince Taliban to change their mind. I think China and Russia can become quite a powerful strategic partners in this aspect.
All right, so let's look forward to that, because for the moment the mediation with Qatar and Turkey hasn't led us anywhere, because the Afghan Taliban side refuses to sign on to stop any such infiltration on the Pakistani side. But you know, who knows, maybe in the next couple of days we might see new angles, new mediators come to the forefront. Thank you very much, Dr. Roxolana Zigon, Russian geopolitical and geostrategic expert, to have joined us for this exclusive on Pakistan TV on my show. And of course, here's to many more interactions all the way from Moscow here, and the next time you're here as well. Thank you very much to have joined us.
Thank you very much.
Our conversation, of course, continues, and we have so many different angles that pertain to all of that has been happening. We have now been joined by Ikram Sehgal Saab. He's a security analyst. Ikram Sehgal Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Ikram Sehgal Saab, looking at whatever has happened, I also talked to you yesterday in the transmission as well, and you were quite pertinent in your views when it comes to what has happened and where it is all going to lead to. What do you foresee now under the current circumstances? Of course, the Varna incident has been curtailed, has been everybody has been safely been evacuated, and the Khawarij have been eliminated. As far as Islamabad is concerned, there are also clear links to the fitna as well. What now? What should be the modus operandi now?
First of all, I would like to thank you for having me on the show. Number two, I would like to congratulate you on having the Russian expert in the studio, because she has very explicitly and eloquently described the situation as it exists on the ground today. And I think we can elaborate on that a little further, because India's policy has been one of duplicity. India's policy has been of duplicity. During the entire Afghan war that took place, whether it was with the Soviets earlier, and then later on with the Americans, and then first with the Northern Alliance, and then the Americans and the NATO forces, Indians were supporting all forces that was against the Taliban. They did not allow refugees to come into India. They refused to even harbor any of their, let's say, people who really couldn't have any place to go. Even 10,000 refugees did not come into India, but as Pakistan was harboring 3 million refugees. I think we should be very clear about one thing. It was a failure of Pakistan's policy. Now, as far as diplomacy is concerned, yes, I agree with you that on the one side, Russia and China has got interests at the moment, which are contrary to the interests of the United States and the Western powers. But that is the great power game, and that will go on. Because you see, you cannot take away the fact that Russia has a defense pact with India, in which majority of Indian military equipment today at the moment and for the foreseeable future is supplied by Russia. And President Putin has promised India that it will continue to do so. So we have to choose our friend with great care. We cannot rush from one camp to another camp immediately. We have to be clear about the fact that what is our enemy? Our enemy primarily is India. And India will, like I said yesterday and I repeat it today, India follows the Chanakya policy. An enemy of an enemy is a friend. So it does not matter that they opposed the Taliban for 40 years and tooth and nail. Now they embrace them, like you very eloquently pointed out. Mr. Motaki was given super VIP treatment in India, and etc. No, the fact of the matter remains that we have to look on a different out-of-the-box thinking. And the out-of-the-box thinking is, first, we have to make sure that the base for terrorist operations within Pakistan is also eliminated. Now, the point is, first of all, we have to be very clear about it. We have to get them out of the cities. Because as long as you give them bases in the cities, there is going to be a problem within Pakistan. It will go on. Now, I do not agree with the Russian expert that the tribes on the other side of the border are inimical to Pakistan. They've never been inimical to Pakistan. It is the few people, that is the Taliban element among them, that are inimical to Pakistan. The tribes, if the tribes were inimical to Pakistan, Pakistan would have a real problem all along the border. But Pakistan, the only time that the problems have occurred is when infiltrators have come in across the border. Now, that, of course, has been covered by both by fire and by that to allow them, a cover to come into Pakistan. And Pakistan has now finally woken up to the fact that they have got to be proactive. That means they have got to go across the border and hit their bases where they are. But to start with, let us turn to Pakistan. I want to just go over a little logistic thing. What is a terrorist? A terrorist is somebody who takes up a gun or wears a suicide box. He comes into a house, he lives in an area, from there he goes, transportation, he's got documents, explosives he cannot buy off the shelf, these are supplied to him. Weapons he cannot buy off the shelf, these are supplied to him. Then he has surveillance of that whatever place he wants to attack. And usually you see they call themselves Muslims, but they are actually attacking women and children. Right? Look at the APS attack recently. It was a hostage situation. Thank our soldiers for having avoided that. Otherwise, you would have an APS Peshawar situation where about 140, 50 children died. Can you afford that today? Therefore, let me tell you, we must first of all be proactive. First proactive is get them out of your urban areas. Get them into refugee camps. I don't say push them across the border. Get them into refugee camps prior to sending them across the border. Now, other than that, let us declare, number two, one or two things. If Afghanistan does not recognize the Durand line as the international border, then we should not recognize Afghanistan. Afghanistan is not one country. The Russian expert will tell you, because they faced the same thing when Soviets were there during the 80s. Actually, there are four different countries. One is the Pakhtun area, number two is the Hazara area, then is the Tajik area, and then there's the Uzbek area.
Ikram Sehgal sahab, I understand your perspective, I understand your point of view as well, and I understand also the way you are saying that we need to move forward. But of course, Pakistan will do what is best for it under the current circumstances, whether it be through kinetic or non-kinetic measures. But of course, we will see in the next couple of days. For the moment, of course, as far as the Vana incident is concerned, things are clear now, because the fitna have been eliminated, and as far as Islamabad is concerned, we already know more or less the identity of the person who was behind this suicide blast. But of course, new measures might come, new things might happen, and new methodologies might be implemented in order to thwart those elements that are trying to destabilize Pakistan, whether they come from across the border, from the Afghan territories, or they come from India. Thank you very much, Ikram Sehgal sahab, to have joined us and to have given us your very eminent point of view. And we'll, of course, till the next time, we'll definitely be discussing on many, many other important issues as well. Let's now take you, continuing in South Asia. There was a very important interparliamentary meeting that happened in Islamabad, and many parliamentarians from different countries were in Islamabad, or are still in Islamabad. In fact, we will be in conversation with one such person. He is Ibrahim al-Moussavi, the Member of Parliament of Lebanon, and he's the head of Media and Communication Committee of the Lebanese Parliament as well. We'll go directly to him. Ibrahim al-Moussavi, thank you very much to have joined us. How important are the interparliamentary sessions like the one we've had or we're having in Islamabad to take a stance on issues that have put humanity on a crisis mode, like, for example, the barbarity that is being perpetrated by Israel?
And we want to congratulate the parliamentarians, and we want to congratulate the heads of the state about the last victory against the aggression that came from India. We would like to say that this kind of parliamentary sessions and these kind of congregations are very important, especially in the world today. It's the diplomacy of the people, and we as parliamentarians, we follow the guidelines of the people, because the people represents the real conscience of the countries. When it comes to politicians, those who do not act according to what their people want and need, then we would be having a big problem. We need to have more and more parliamentary sessions and inter-parliamentary sessions like the one that has been hosted by Pakistan like today, because this will bring us closer together, this will widen our horizons, and this will put us onto one course of action against the enemies of humanity that is being represented today by Israel, that is committing genocide in Gaza, committing genocide in Lebanon, and conspiring against not only Gaza, not only Palestine, not only Lebanon, not only Jordan, not only Egypt, but against all the humanity. So I believe this is the boundary, this is the borderline of a humanity that we are defending here in Islamabad. And I believe Islamabad, Pakistan, has a very crucial role to play against the Israelis, against the evil wherever it comes or wherever it springs from. Our message to the lovely Pakistani people and our message to the leadership in Pakistan is that we are very proud of their achievements, and this is a very fascinating city, Islamabad, very secure city, and very lovely people. Thank you for your hospitality, and hopefully together we will be able to achieve more and more. The cooperation between the two countries is very important. The humanity is in a crisis, and I believe all those who have really human nerve, they should work together in order to find a solution.
You talk of cooperation, Mr. Al-Moussavi. Of course, cooperation is the basis of diplomatic relationship and collaboration and friendship between two countries, as is the case with Pakistan and Lebanon. What are the areas of collaboration that could work in the favor of both Lebanon and Pakistan?
You know, when it comes to popular diplomacy, we represent the people of Lebanon. Here you represent the Pakistani people. I believe when it comes to people, we have a lot of common grounds together in order to work to achieve our common goals. We all want peace, we all want justice, we all want prosperity, we all want independence in a world where the United States of America and most of the countries are trying to be the hegemons of the world, are trying to control and dominate the world, are trying to make their will come true by the violence and by the occupation and by the despots. I believe the humanity has to be a whistleblower. We have to send a cry for humanity, and we can together do a lot, inshallah, in this course.
How do you view, Mr. Al-Moussavi, the efforts that Pakistan has made to ensure peace and stability in Gaza, whether it be from our government side, from our Field Marshal Sayyid Asim Munir or our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Sahab?
I believe Pakistan is a very important country, and I believe the leadership is a wise leadership, and I believe they have a lot of sense of justice against the aggressions, against the aggressors, against the occupiers. And I believe Pakistan has its own threats as well from certain countries that want to control or to dominate. So that's why I believe the leadership in Pakistan has done a good job, but I believe we look forward for more and more engagement from the Pakistani leadership, because Pakistan is very influential, the leadership is wise, they can do a lot in order to help bring peace to Gaza, bring independence to Gaza, help save the Gazans, their lives, and help stop the Israeli aggression, the Israeli occupation, because this is very monstrous, this is very horrible. They are committing genocide there, they are committing genocide for humanity. That's why we have to move quickly, swiftly, and strongly.
All right, when it comes to Gaza, you being one of the neighborhood countries of Palestine as well, Mr. Al-Moussavi, what is the way forward under the current circumstances when, of course, a ceasefire is in place, but also there are different issues that pertain to this very ceasefire agreement?
I believe efforts should be joined from all the countries, from all the Islamic countries, from all the Arab countries, from all the countries who really believe in humanity, who really manifest humanity, in order to stop the aggressors. The Israeli criminals, war criminals, Netanyahu and all of his thugs, they should be brought to justice, and I believe there should be decisions, real decisions, in order to bring them to justice and in order to force them to stop this genocide.
Finally, Mr. Al-Moussavi, I've taken a lot of your time. I understand your time is very precious here in Islamabad, especially as well. I'd like to understand, through my last question, you said that Pakistan had faced an unprovoked aggression by India in the last months as well. How does Lebanon view the escalation of Indian aggression towards Pakistan? How volatile is this aggression, not only towards Pakistan, but towards the entire region?
This is very dangerous, this is very crucial, and this is very important for world peace and stability. I believe that Pakistan has done very well in this against the Indian aggression. They have done excellently well, and may Allah protect Pakistan and the Pakistanis. And we want to see an end for all of these conflicts. We want to see that the countries won't make more aggressions against each other. I believe in Lebanon, you know, we have a lot of problems. It's enough that we have the Israel, the occupying entity next to us that occupied Palestine, occupy parts of Lebanon, occupy parts of Syria, and they are carrying daily aggressions. I believe we together, as victims of the Israeli occupation and Israeli aggression, we can do a lot together in order to help bring peace and stability. By resistance, we have to resist the evil, and hopefully we will prevail, inshallah.
Inshallah, we will definitely prevail. Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim Al-Moussavi, member of the Lebanese Parliament and also the head of Media and Communication Committee in the Parliament as well, to have joined us exclusively on Pakistan TV and who have given us your point of views, not only on the collaboration between Pakistan and Lebanon, but also on the recent incidents, whether what is happening in the Middle East, in Palestine, or what is happening in the region vis-a-vis India. Thank you very much, sir, for these comments. And of course, may the friendship and collaboration between Pakistan and Lebanon get stronger with each passing day. Let's now take you to the West. Now, a landmark report has been recently launched by Amnesty International that warns that over 2 billion people, around 1/4 of the population of the entire world, lives within 3 miles of fossil fuel infrastructure such as wells, pipelines and refineries. This is an extremely volatile situation, and of course we've been seeing that in the last couple of decades, and the role of COP30 in Brazil, that is of course happening, will be happening, is extremely important in this very context of fossil fuel emission. This research that was recently released by Amnesty, which is the most comprehensive mapping of its kind, identifies 18,300 operational oil, gas and coal sites in 170 countries and 3,500 more such projects under development, putting another 135 million people at risk. We've been joined by Waqar Sherazi. He's a climate expert, to talk more on this. Waqar, thank you very much to have joined us. Waqar, as the COP30 convenes in Belém in Brazil, how, in your point of view, can global negotiators transform this Amnesty report that I've just talked about into legally binding commitments to phase out fossil fuels rather than yet another cycle of voluntary pledges and rhetoric?
Well, many thanks indeed for having me on the show. And as I have previously mentioned that there are certain times that when the talks on media about the climate itself are diminished, but PTV keeps on talking about the matter because it is a significant issue. And we have a recognition that how we are contributing into the climate change itself. When it comes to the COP conference, that is UNFCCC, and it is COP30, the 30th session of the conference. Yes, we do receive majority of the criticism from around the globe that the people gather from around the world to talk about the climate, but it also then contributes into the fossil fuel emissions in terms of the air travel and in terms of the other facilities provided to the participants. But on the other hand, the COP conference creates an alarm to retain the global average temperature increase less than 2 Celsius increase. And on the other hand, it takes country accountable on the stock taking on the NDCs, that what actions were taken by any of the countries with regards to control fossil fuel emission, with regards to the emission of greenhouse gases, the transition towards green energy, and the adaptation policies with regards to gender responsive climate action and adaptation with regards to introducing coping mechanisms to enhance the resilience of not only the communities, but the governments and the countries themselves to better deal with the climate-induced calamities. This time, the stock taking, it is for the third time that stock taking has been taken because it is, so we call it the NDC3, in which different countries who set the benchmarks for themselves would be sharing their progress in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and in taking other actions.
I understand that, Waqar, but I'd also like to understand about this whole fossil fuel issue. 2 billion people living within 5 kilometers of fossil fuel sites. What are the immediate health as well as human rights frameworks within the mechanism of COP30 that you feel can be adopted to protect the vulnerable populations?
Well, being realistic, on one hand, there is a unlimited energy requirement by the human beings on the earth to keep the wheel of development moving. But on the other hand, we observe that the same pace is throwing back the human race into
Okay, we seem to have some kind of an issue with Waqar Sherazi as far as his conversation with us is concerned. And of course, we are talking about the Amnesty International report that warns over 2 billion people who, of course, as I said, that is 1/4 of the world's population, live within 3 miles of the fossil fuel infrastructure, for example, wells, for example, pipelines, for example, refineries. And of course, the proximity to these sites is causes a lot of health hazards, cancer, respiratory diseases, heart diseases, premature births, water contamination, to name just a few, while also the ecosystems are being affected and they are being degraded and biodiversity is being affected. And that is why the COPs or such mechanisms of getting together countries of the world to talk about the environment, the ecosystems, is extremely important to take necessary decisions in that very respect. Let's hope COP30 in Belém in Brazil will take those decisions, and will not only take those decisions but also will implement those decisions, because this is what we need. In the past also, Pakistan has seen a lot of decisions taken but not implemented. Let's hope this year will be the year of implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's Beyond Borders. As always, we bring you stories from across the world for a perspective that does not include any border and boundaries, but nevertheless issues that are extremely pertinent in this changing scenario, a scenario that continues to change and evolve, and so will our shows and our content. We'll be seeing you inshallah tomorrow with new stories that matter. Till then, Allah Hafiz.